Don't start an AV company, at least not the way I did, because my most expensive mistake in this business had nothing to do with AV. No drop TV, no bad bid, no client who stiffed me. It was a missing piece of paper, and it cost me 6 figures. I'll tell you exactly what it was in a minute, because it takes about an hour and a few $100 to prevent. This industry eats new companies alive, not because the work is hard, but because the business is invisible until it's already killed you. So in the next 9 minutes, the 5 things that separate the guys who quit in 18 months from the ones who build something worth owning. And on number 5, I'm going to disagree with every other video on this topic, from experience. First truth, you are not in the electronics business. 20 years ago, an AV shop marked up a TV 40 points and the install was almost a courtesy. Then the internet flattened hardware pricing into the dirt. Today, your customer can price check every box in your proposal from the toilet. So what are you actually selling? Outcomes, the TV is a commodity. It works every time my wife picks up the remote is not a commodity. You sell design, integration, programming, and the phone number they call when something breaks. And priced that way, this is a good business. My company ran better than 50% margin on overall deals. Not on the boxes, on the whole job, blended gear and labor together, because the value was never in the boxes. Every decision you make from here flows from that one inversion. If you catch yourself competing on gear price, you've already lost. Somebody with a garage and no insurance will always be cheaper. Let him have it. He's about to learn lesson 2 the hard way. Second, pick one lane and stay in it for your first 2 years. AV is really 3 different industries wearing one name. Residential, home theaters, whole home audio, networks, shades, lighting. Relationship business. You get paid on trust and referrals, and jobs come through builders and designers. Commercial, conference rooms, restaurants, churches, schools. Slower sales, bigger checks, and they buy on reliability and paperwork, not vibes. Net 30 invoices, sometimes net 60. You'll float payroll while you wait. Live events, staging, rental, production. Completely different animal, inventory heavy, weekend heavy, and your gear depreciates while you sleep. Now, can you run more than one lane? Eventually, sure. My company did. Years in, we added light commercial and access control. But notice the 2 words, years in, and notice they stayed a small slice of revenue on purpose. The expansion came after we were the shop builders recommended without being asked, not instead of getting there. Because here's the rule that actually matters. Be the best at whichever lanes you choose. The 18-month killers aren't dead because they picked 2 lanes. They're dead because they were mediocre in 3. Every lane you add is a lane where someone who does nothing else is out executing you. So start with the one that matches the network you already have. No 3 builders? Residential. Brother-in-law manages office fit-outs? Commercial. Start where the first 5 jobs are already warm and let the second lane wait until the first one is won. Third, the unsexy stuff. Nobody starts an AV company because they love paperwork. And that's exactly why paperwork is where they die. 1. Licensing. In a lot of states, the moment you run wire inside a wall, you're doing low-voltage electrical work, and that requires a license. My state didn't require one. That's luck of geography, not a plan. Some states don't care. Some will fine you into the ground, and some let your customer legally refuse to pay you if you weren't licensed. Look up your state before your first job, not after. 2. Insurance. General liability, $1 million minimum before you touch anyone's drywall. You will drop a TV eventually. You'll also discover most builders and every commercial client won't let you on site without a certificate of insurance anyway. And if you hire anyone, workers' comp. An installer falling off a ladder without comp coverage is a company-ending event. 3. The entity. An LLC and a separate bank account, day 1. It's a few $100. The guys running jobs through their personal checking account aren't running a company. They're running a hobby with liability. And 4. The one from the top of this video. If you're starting with a partner, and a lot of AV companies start as 2 guys in a van, get a real partnership agreement in writing with buyout terms before the first job. Mine didn't have one. And when my partner and I split, There was no document that said who got what. So it went to lawyers. I had to sue, and after enough months of legal bills, I took less than I should have just to make it stop. 6 figures, gone, over a document that would have taken an afternoon when we still liked each other. Every partnership either ends or outlives you. Write down the ending while you're still friends. One more, while we're in the boring folder, and nobody says this one out loud. Everybody tells you to get a CPA. Fine, get one, you'll see them at tax time. But the person who actually keeps your lights on is your bookkeeper. The filings, the sales tax remittance, the licenses that quietly expire, that's the drumbeat that gets companies shut down when it's missed. And a CPA once a year won't catch it. A good bookkeeper is the cheapest employee-shaped thing you'll ever pay for. None of this gets you a single customer. It just means the first bad day doesn't end you. In this business, there is always a first bad day. Fourth, and this is the one that genuinely surprises people, you can't just buy the good stuff. The professional gear that makes this business work, the control systems, the rack gear, the networking, the dealer-only speaker lines, is sold through distribution, and distributors and manufacturers vet you before you can open an account. They'll want your entity docs, your resale certificate, proof of insurance, sometimes trade references, or a minimum annual purchase commitment. This is a feature, not a bug. That gate is what protects your margin from the internet. Dealer-protected lines are the reason Section 1 works at all. Here's the structure that worked for me. Direct dealer on my main product lines, distribution for everything else. Direct with the manufacturers whose gear anchored every job. That's where the best margin, the training, and the support live. And it's the relationship that makes you a real dealer instead of a guy with a resale certificate. Then distributor accounts for the long tail, the wire, the mounts, the one-off parts you don't touch often enough to earn direct pricing on. So in your first month, apply for both. 1 or 2 direct dealerships that anchor your stack, plus the big national low-voltage distributors and a regional house. Then, and this matters, standardize. Pick one control ecosystem, one network brand, one rack vendor, and learn them cold. Every brand you carry is a brand you have to stock, learn, troubleshoot at 11 p.m., and warranty. The profitable shops are boring. Same rack layout, same network config, same remote, every single job. Boring is fast, and fast is margin. Let me tell you how mine actually started, because nobody's first customer comes from a marketing funnel. My first client was a small construction company that needed somebody to pre-wire houses for security. They already had a guy. I undercut him, but on purpose, with math. I priced it at a number that still worked, even if I had to sub out the labor. Undercut with math, not with hope. They stayed with me for years, and I raised their prices gradually as I earned it. Then I worked the phone, every builder I'd crossed paths with doing their AV over the years, until I'd gathered a core group whose work I did. All of it. And here's our entire marketing budget. Word of mouth and houses that did the selling for us. Street of Dreams. The showcase homes builders open to the public. When your builder's dream home has your rack in the closet and your theater in the basement, thousands of people walk through your portfolio in a weekend, and the builder is the one bragging about it. Model homes did the same job year-round. Every model my builders ran was a permanent showroom I didn't pay rent on. And every security install planted a yard sign with our name on it at the curb. A little billboard the customer paid us to put up. No ads, no funnel, no website leads. A list of names, a price that worked, and houses that sold the next house. The work grew until the day I counted 40 days in a row of wiring houses myself. That week I hired my first full-time helper. That helper became 3 full-time installers and 2 programmers. And 3 years in, I finally moved out of my garage and opened a showroom of my own. A full home automation system, a dedicated theater, distributed audio through the whole space, all of it live and working. That room taught me the biggest sales lesson of my career. If you don't show it, it's much harder to sell it. You cannot spec sheet somebody into wanting a theater, but sit them in one, lights dim on their own, sound comes from everywhere, and the system sells itself. You're just the guy standing there when they turn around. So that's the whole playbook. One anchor client, a call list, math-based pricing, houses that sell the next house, saying yes until your calendar forces you to hire, and as soon as you can afford it, a room where people can feel what you sell. Now the money, and the reason I opened this video telling you not to do this. New AV companies die from two math errors. Error 1, pricing labor like an employee instead of a company. If you made 40 bucks an hour at your old job, 85 sounds like a heist. It isn't. Back in 2020, my company billed between 85 and 130 an hour depending on the work. And that was 2020 money. Price it forward. Because out of that rate comes the truck, the fuel, the insurance, the tools, the unbillable hours quoting jobs you don't win, and the day you spend re-terminating something for free. Load it all in and bill accordingly. Charge like the company you are, not the employee you were. And here's the sanity check we ran every quote through. Labor should come out to about 30% of the project's total dollars. That one ratio catches both mistakes at once. Labor way under 30? You're eating hours you didn't bill. The job will feel profitable and bleed you anyway. Way over? You've underscoped the gear or you're bidding work that should have been walked away from. 30% labor, disciplined hardware margin, and the blended deal lands north of 50. That's the shape of a healthy job, and you can check it in 10 seconds before you hit send on a proposal. How do you actually see those numbers on every quote? Not in your head and not in a spreadsheet you built at midnight. Real proposal software built for this trade from day one. I use D-tools from my first quote to my last. Every part, every labor hour, every margin point in one system on every proposal before it went out. The 50-point margins and the 30% labor check weren't things I discovered at tax time. They were on the screen before I hit send. The guys pricing jobs on the hood of the truck don't find out a job lost money until the money's already gone. Error 2, the free truck roll. Client calls. The TV's acting up. You drive out, you fix it in 10 minutes, you waive off payment because they're a nice referral source. Do that 80 times a year, and you've donated a month of your life. The fix isn't being rude. The fix is number 5. Recurring monthly revenue, the thing that turns a job shop into a business. And here's where I break from every other video on this topic. The standard advice says, attach an AV service contract to every install. Remote monitoring, priority support, 50 bucks a month. Sounds great on a whiteboard. I never sold one. Not once. Here's why. Nobody wants to pay monthly for a TV that already works. When the system's good, the plan feels like paying for nothing. And if your work is clean, the system is good. You can fight that psychology, or you can walk 20 feet next door to where the recurring revenue already lives. Monitored security. Alarm and camera monitoring is the RMR your AV skills already qualify you for. Same low voltage wire, same networks, same walls you're already inside. But the customer psychology is inverted. People expect to pay monthly for monitoring. Their insurance company often discounts for it. And it's sticky. Nobody cancels the thing that calls the fire department. Here's the math that made me a believer. A typical monitored account bills around $35 a month. The central station that actually watches those signals? Wholesale dealer rates run around 5. Add $1.25 for billing software. You keep the spread on an account you were already inside the walls to wire, and then there's the exit. Books of monitoring accounts trade at 20 to 35 times their monthly revenue. Do the math Ray's doing right now. 1,000 accounts, 35 bucks a month. That's $35,000 a month in recurring revenue, every month whether you sold a project or not. And as a book, 20 to 35 times monthly puts it at 700 grand on the low end, well past $1 million on the high end. Banks will literally lend against a portfolio of monitoring contracts. Nobody lends a dime against your project pipeline. Fair warning, security is its own discipline. Roughly half the states require an alarm license of some kind, and even where they don't, you're signing central station contracts and owning response protocols. A real learning curve, and you should respect it like a second trade. But it bolts onto an AV company better than anything else, because you're already the low voltage guy in the house. Every install becomes a subscriber opportunity, just not the subscription the gurus told you to sell. So, Don't start an AV company that sells boxes, half-asses 3 lanes, skips the paperwork, shakes hands with a partner instead of signing with one, buys retail, and gives away its time. Start the other one. Sell outcomes. Be the best in your lane. Build the boring legal shield. Partnership agreement first. Get behind the dealer gate and standardize. And bolt monitored security onto every house you're already inside. The industry will still be undersupplied with people who do clean work and answer the phone. That part never changed. If you're that person, this business will treat you very, very well. If you want the follow-up, how to price your first 10 jobs so you don't starve, that video's next. Subscribe so you don't miss it.